I think my passion is really for storytelling, and how we tell stories and who tells stories and what are the stories about. When I was in school, I remember the only book I read by an African writer was Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. And before then, a friend of mine had given me the book The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I remember thinking, there must be more of black women writers. There must be more black writers. Why is it the only people I read about are white? I wanted to read about black people. So when I went to study, I studied African literature as my major because I wanted to find the other black people. And in finding the other black people, I found all these stories that resonated with who I was and with where I came from, with the experiences I was having as a person. And I think the difficulty that I've always had as an actress is that the stories I've been in have not always reflected me as a person of color. And I wanted to make stories. My dream has always been to make stories about particularly women of color. I think there's a huge missing space in the canon for that, and when I say the canon of filmmaking, particularly in this country, of black women's voices and our experiences. So I have a great desire, wish, hope that I will still make films that are very much about that. But I also have come to understand that film is a long process. It's a love process. It's not a making a living process. So in that way, I'm understanding that this is something that I will evolve into. It's not something that will necessarily just happen now. But I know that in my everyday life, I'm always having a running dialogue with self about stories of black women of color. I think because I was an actress, it was just like an organic, I think that's the word, an organic flow into film. I've worked as a film actress, and I think becoming a film producer came through being a script editor, working on the project as a script editor, and then raising finance to make the film. And that's how I got into film at this point in my life. The film that I remember having the most impact on me, there were two films. The first one was Once We're Warriors. I think it was the first time I'd seen a film with people of color that was so authentic, that took me to the place where I grew up in Alexander Township, that had issues that were so similar to the issues I grew up with. And I remember I always have a memory of myself watching that film and how deeply affected I was. And it was terrible because it was a date. I had gone on a date with this guy and I just wept. And I think we never had a date again. But that film, I think it had so many layers. It had socioeconomic issues. It had issues of cultural traditions that we lose as a people. And it left like a space in me of, we need to tell those kind of stories. We need to tell authentic stories. We need to tell stories that are about us and written about us, for us, reflecting us, because we will be then writing ourselves into history, because we don't exist in history. The history books do not have us and our experiences. But when we write stories, we document ourselves, and I think it is the most powerful way to leave a legacy behind, to say we were here.